But Chris spent a lot of time on the campaign trail, talking to Delawareans, talking about issues, talking about those things that were certainly possible for Delawareans if they returned him to office, which they certainly did.
Yeah, and the other piece, which is fascinating about this is, I think Senator Coons has shown us, right? Like the first opponent he had that we don't need to mention, and then now the second opponent, Chris has been laser focused in terms of not only the Democratic message, but what does he want to deliver and how does that message resonate with our local candidates? And I think we are so fortunate to have Senator Coons on the ticket. And just like Senator Carper, right? Even when he's not on the ticket, he's helping candidates. But especially this year, what you didn't see happening behind the scenes was the way Senator Coons' campaign was helping all of our local candidates. Yeah. Whether it was IDs, door knocking, standing at the polls today, counsel, advice. And it doesn't just go to Senator Coons, it's his entire staff. And as Jesse said, Senator Coons was fortunate enough to have Jesse years ago. We have Jesse now. But the number one thing that Senator Coons always does each election cycle is assemble a top-notch team. And he does it through the lens of not only how is that going to get him elected, but how will that help the party and our down-ballot candidates.
Yeah, exactly. And then he also spends an awful lot of time, as I said before, laser focused on the needs of Delawareans, which is why, he has, he's been returned back to office so many times. Every time that you see him out and about, he is talking to people about the things that concern them the most. And he is not, connected up to some other organization that's trying to do something completely different. He is connected to, the people who live here. So we're really grateful that he's our senator, and we're really grateful that he's going back to Washington for us.
So we were hoping to have Senator Coons up. I know he's got a 10 o'clock national press hit that he's preparing for. It sounds like maybe we're having some technical difficulties. We hope to maybe get Chris back later in the program. Let's take a quick dive into some of the results. We just had a huge batch populate here. And I think we should look down. We haven't talked much about the lieutenant governor's race yet, but our lieutenant governor, Bethany Hall Long, is up 62 to basically 38 right now. And I think that's a really great sign that all the work that she's done on the opioid issue, on public health. I think things that aren't necessarily sexy top line issues, but really make an impact in people's lives, is resonating and hitting home. So that's a really exciting outcome. Almost by the same margin, our insurance commissioner is winning his race north of 60%. And Cassandra, I know that some of the policies that he implemented had a direct effect on you as a consumer.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about that?
I do want to talk about that for a moment. I do have Obamacare that my employer pays for, but I do have it. And that Obamacare let me get out of the regular corporate world and get into a much more exciting job with a much smaller firm. And over the past year, my insurance premiums went down about 13%, and they're about to go down again, which is really fantastic. And certainly, the effort to get rid of, the ability of insurance companies to use credit checks to price your insurance. Once that went away, my car insurance here in the city of Wilmington went down 50%. So even though my credit is fine, they were using my address as the risk factor to price me into insurance.
Well, I mean, that's a great success story, and I think we should talk about that more when we have Trini up. But right now, I did want to pivot to Senator Coons, who's able to join us for just a few minutes. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. I know you're having some technical issues. But thanks for being here.
Thanks. Great being on with you, Jesse.
Senator, congratulations on your win. I know that that's a page that you want to quickly turn and focus on the other events of the evening and the work ahead. What are the things that you're watching?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble hearing you, but Jesse, it's great to see you. I'm struck by the beardless look and how much you've changed since we last saw each other at headquarters. It was great being up and down the state today with candidates running for a statewide and local office. Every polling place I went to, there was record turnout, and yet the elections here in Delaware seem to have gone off very well without any significant challenges. All of us are anxiously watching our televisions for national results. There have been some early positives in terms of some Senate seats that we've won, but longer term, this may be a late night. We had 100 million Americans vote early. We have to remember that every one of those votes needs to be counted. And there's a dozen states that didn't begin counting until tonight. So I'm hopeful that when this is all said and done, we'll be celebrating a win for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I'm hopeful that I'll get to return to a Senate where Tom Carper, my senior senator, is chairing the Environment and Public Works Committee, and where Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester and Tom and I are going to get to work hard to support their agenda. We've got a lot of hard work to do together, and I am grateful for the ways in which Democrats have come together in our state and nationally, and I'm still optimistic about the results this evening.
What do you see as, or what have you been hearing from people as you've talked to them today up and down the state? Are their top priorities for Congress to work on once it comes back into session?
Sounds like we're having some audio problems. Cassandra, can you want to repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Senator, as you talk to people up and down the state today, what were they telling you were the most important things to them for Congress to get working on once it goes back into session?
All right. It seems like we lost our audio feed with Senator Coons.
Okay.
It was good to have him on briefly.
Yes,
I know that he's busy, and I apologize to all the viewers for the technical difficulties that we are having. But we are gonna forge on. We don't let this stuff stop us. We have some funny stories about technical difficulties from our campaigns where text banks went sideways and phone banks went sideways, and it didn't stop us. It didn't stop us from contacting voters, and so we're going to roll with the punches here. Mm-hmm. We're going to have the Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester on very shortly. She is at 60% in her race against four-way race, really, to third-party candidates, but up 60 to essentially 30 over, or 60 to 40, I'm sorry, over Lee Murphy. We are so excited to send Lisa back to Washington. I think we know how that phrase ends, but she's just been such a wonderful representative for us. She's brought so much life and energy to the party, but I think more than that, she's really brought a conscience to the party, and she's just such a wonderful person to have around to motivate us, to energize us, and she's also a really thoughtful policymaker as well. And so we're excited to bring her up here in a second. Cassandra, can you talk a little bit about Lisa and just some of the work she's done in the city? Just around this election, I saw Lisa this morning at Quaker Hill Place Apartments as she was supporting our city council candidate, Brigida Fields, which was really impressive, that she came down to, to support a city council candidate, spent some time talking to people in the line. People were excited to speak to her. And she has been, again, like all of our federal delegation, a wonderful mentor towards, candidates who are running for offices at all levels of our government. This was Brigida's very first time running for office, and Lisa took her under her wing and has really been a great resource for her, and has done that for other candidates up and down the line as well. She was also in the city on Monday as we did our lit drop for Bethany Hall Long, came out, fired up the crowd, and got them ready to, be able to pick up a bunch of packets and get those things delivered all throughout the city. It was really wonderful to see, and it's wonderful to see everybody, come together, under the leadership of people like Lisa Blunt Rochester. Erik?
Yeah, I often tell the story when we're talking about our Congresswoman of, I actually got to meet her 15 years ago, and she was the one who interviewed me for my first statewide position. But what I remember from then and what I remember now is, you hear the passion from our Congresswoman. You hear, not only the enthusiasm about how to engage people, but why we should be engaged. this is part of the democratic process. And I really feel like, even, as I hear her speak time and time again, she still reminds me every time she speaks of, why we all do this. And, we are so fortunate to have her, on the team. And we often, take advantage of that when we have different rallies, when we have events, back at the DNC, et cetera. We know that our Congresswoman is the one that can kind of, either be the front end person to get us riled up and ready to go, or be the last person to speak to us. So we are very fortunate to have her. And everything that she does.
Well, and speaking of energy and enthusiasm and really bringing it day in and day out, I can't think of anyone more tireless than our next guest, our Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall-Long. I'm not sure that Bethany sleeps.
Correct. The Energizer Bunny.
And we call her the Energizer Bunny in our party. It is a very apt moniker. But when she is on the move, she's doing really critical and important things to change the lives of Delawareans. So, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear us? Lieutenant Governor, can you hear us?
Just now. I just heard you for the first time.
Hey,
There she
Bethany.
is. There
We're glad
she
to have
is.
you with us.
A little trial and error here, but thanks for being patient.
You got it. Anything for the Democrat Party. I love being here in the coordinated campaign. I love it.
Awesome. Well, look, congratulations on what's a really wonderful win today and tonight. I hope you have a chance to celebrate with your team. I know how hard you all worked. Talk a little bit about what you were hearing from voters as you talked to them up and down the state about what was on their minds and why they supported you so overwhelmingly.
Thank you so much. I just have to say thank you first to you, the state party, and to our teachers and union leaders, and to everyone who's been there with me. I know we'll probably talk in a minute about my campaign team and everyone else in the coordinated, but it does take it takes a village. And those who know me, when I traveled the state today, I really heard about the things that matter to people. And first and foremost, maybe because I'm a nurse, was COVID. Persons were really worried about having protections and being able to really help their families and put food on the table, the things that really matter. And so those were key top issues. And let's face it, working, having the ability to have a solid job. But the most important thing I think I heard that really touched me was about issues around justice and equity. People wanting to be treated with kindness and respect were so important. And so to me, it touched my heart. Again, going up and down the state, and whether it was a 90-year-old grandmother with a walker who we helped get inside a poll and sit, or if it was the young first energized voter who came out and stood in line 2 hours, who was 18. Everyone was enthusiastic today, and it was an amazing feeling.
One of the things that has been, I think, a real success here in Delaware has been our response to COVID. We certainly would like for, our rates to be a lot lower than they are, but, we've been doing a lot better than many other places. I introduced you a few weeks ago as something of our conscience for our COVID response. Here in Wilmington, I know about the work that you've done, and you've done it up and down the state, but, I've certainly seen it here in Wilmington, working with our homeless people, working with families and people who are in distress, making sure that they are able to protect themselves throughout this pandemic. What do you think, we can do to sort of extend on that work that you've been doing throughout the state to help people be healthier and to make sure that they're protected during this time?
Well, thank you again. I mean, I think that's Cassandra's voice that I'm hearing.
Yes, it's Cassandra.
Cassandra, and I know Erik and Jesse, they probably have heard me say the phrase so many times, to whom much is given, much is expected. And being boots on the ground in the city of Wilmington was the best way to keep Delawareans safe. Governor Carney, we came into this with no pandemic playbook. And we know we've got to have that healthy community before we can have that healthy economy. And the most marginalized are homeless, our communities where individuals don't have appropriate housing, do not have appropriate transportation, don't have appropriate job access. That's what Delaware Democrats are about. And that's why I was so pleased to go on the streets, do COVID testing with my good friend, Dr. Gibney, and most importantly, making sure folks had masks, making sure people had the protection they needed, but also the mental health crisis. You know, we've got the opioid epidemic in the midst of this pandemic. And that's what Delawareans are, from our congressional level all the way to our legislators, have worked so hard to put mental health resources in our communities to make sure when they have a loved one who is struggling with depression or suicide ideation, they can pick up the phone and get care right away. And that's what makes Delaware great, because we have that partnership from the congressional level down to our state, down to the county and municipality. And so, Cassandra, when you were with me in Wilmington, it really made a difference. You know, I started my day with a call from a homeless woman at 6:45 in the morning, and I thought she probably needed help. You know what she wanted? She wanted to wish me well and wish Democratic Party well, and that just did it all.
That's
and
fantastic.
That's the difference of our party and our state leadership, and that's why people care. Whether it's our unions, whether it's our frontline workers, we care, and that's why we're going to get Joe Biden, I hope, across the line, you know, tonight. And you heard from our Senator Coons and Senator Carper. That's what we care about.
Yeah. Bethany, real quick as we finish up, you know, obviously this is Erik, and I met you back in 2002. You know, you've ran yourself. You've been very instrumental in helping House candidates, Senate candidates. What is your takeaway from 2020? You know, obviously we're running in the midst of COVID, but separate from COVID, like, what are you hearing differently? What did you feel differently? What's your takeaway from this year?
You know, I think that this year the candidates, people want diversity. People, you know, Erik, you're right. People want people who care, who are going to walk that talk. You know, I've always said the thing that I love doing is, you know what, showing up, listening, and acting. And that's what they want. And that's why we have more women, persons of color, and why we have people who are ready and to go and really care for Delaware. So again, I just thank you all for doing this tonight. I know we can't claim full victory on everyone, but I just say thank you again. And to the Democrat Party, thanks. And to the coordinated, to my team. I could go on and on. I know I'm going to forget somebody, but I know you'll hear again later from others who are elected in our state, and all eyes are on Delaware. The last thing I will say, I got a surprise today. I literally, myself and Senator Darius Brown, got to go to Biden's pool with Joe Biden.
I saw that. I was watching.
I got to go
yeah,
over
I
there.
saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, sorry, it was good. But anyway, I know you're on a time schedule, but thank you to Delaware for voting today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and
Thank you.
for being with us, I should say.
Yes.
And congratulations on your victory.
Congratulations, Bethany.
Congratulations, Bethany.
Thanks. We're going to pivot quickly to our Congresswoman, who I believe is with us. Congresswoman Lisa Blount-Rochester, are you with us yet? All right. She'll be with us with just a minute.
Okay.
So the Congresswoman, we've talked a lot about her. I'll just tell a personal story because I think that's what a lot of this is about, is the personal relationships that we build. I was in my office late on Monday, dragging, and I was tired and I wanted to go home, but I had a few things I had to take off my list, and Lisa just popped her head in my door and kind of gave me a pep talk, asked me how I was doing, holding up, whether I was getting any sleep. It was a small touch, but it was a meaningful touch, and you know, it kept me going for a few more hours, and that's the kind of person that our Congresswoman is. So Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being that kind of a person, and congratulations on your victory tonight.
Congratulations.
Thank you all so much, and I'm glad to be here. I know I only have a moment, but it was imperative that I get on and say thank you so much, first of all, to the Delaware Democratic Party for all of your efforts, your support, your hard work on behalf of Delawareans. Also to all of the voters, I am ecstatic. I am proud. I am humbled, and I am honored to be reelected to my third term. And there is so much work that we have to do, and especially during this time of a pandemic, during a racial reckoning, as we look at equity issues across the board, whether it's environmental justice, whether it's healthcare, whether it's jobs or training. I am ready for the task. And like everybody, I am praying and hoping for a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris win. So I am on my way now down to the riverfront to be there and to actually do some interviews as well, but I had to be on, and I'm so glad we were able to deal with the technology and get me on. And to Jesse, to Erik and Cassandra, oh my God, heroes and sheroes you are. You brought this thing. First of all, and I don't know if it's probably been said already, but if it hasn't already, you have taken our party to a new level and to a new place, and it created a space where all feel welcome. And as someone who had never run before 2016, I can tell you how much that means and how much it matters. And so if they haven't already said it, I'm sure they have. I hope that tonight you savor all the historic wins that you see come out of this Democratic Party, because it translates into lives, it translates into our well-being, and it translates into the unity that we're going to need to tackle these incredible challenges that we face. So I want to thank the Democrats. I want to thank those who voted for me. I want to thank my incredible staff, and both campaign and official side, because they do the work that got me elected. And I want to thank my friends and family, but I especially wanted to say to you three, phenomenal work. The whole team over there, phenomenal work on uniting our party, on keeping the main thing, and having us have a vision, not just for this state, but for this country. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
Well, we thank you as well. You have been a real key to our success. Absolutely. We appreciate all of your mentorship, and we appreciate, all of your investment in all of our candidates as well as in the party. And we look forward to having you go back to Washington, and hopefully, we will send you back to a Washington that will take up a bunch of the great bills that the House has put together and that has done for the people. Really, yes. I mean, I hear Nancy Pelosi say this all the time: for the people.
That's right.
What do you think are going to be some of the top priorities once the House reconvenes after this election?
I think the number one thing is going to be COVID, a COVID relief package. We have to make sure that Delaware has the resources that it needs to deal with this pandemic, because when we deal with the pandemic, we're dealing with our lives, right. And then we can also deal with our livelihoods. I think also you're going to see an infrastructure package, because that ties to both COVID as well as us building back better, in Joe Biden's words. And that touches directly to things such as our health as well as our environment. If we do it right, if we have energy efficient buildings, it creates jobs. If we look at solar and wind and other opportunities, it helps the environment, and then we can also thrive. And so I think you're going to see a focus on healthcare, COVID, focus on jobs, infrastructure, as well as looking at how government runs. Everything from making sure that we deal with money in politics, to making sure that we really do look at reforming the institutions that we have. And we're going to have a lot of work just looking at all the things that President Trump has done. So I am prayerful tonight. We tell people to please be patient and know that we're not just saying election day, we're saying election week. Should we need it to be election week? Yeah. But don't follow the map too closely right now. Let's be patient. Yes. And I am hopeful. It's been an honor to also be a national co-chair for the Biden-Harris campaign, and even to be on the VP selection committee. And we know that Delaware's own Joe Biden is pillar, salt of the earth, has the experience, has the vision, and we just need to get to work. So those are some of the things that we will be working on.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, we're going to let you get down to the riverfront. What you missed earlier, and I told everybody, is you were the one that interviewed me for my first statewide political job, and you were always the right person to kind of lead off the evening, to end the evening, or to motivate us all in between. And we can't thank you enough for what you do for this party in Delaware, Absolutely. What you do for us nationally, and we really appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
thank you guys so much, and thank you, and hopefully, Erik, you're not telling any like real, stories like, how,
Not for now. Not for now.
Yeah,
You don't have to worry.
it's 10:19.
When the lights go off.
Right.
So,
Have a wonderful
love you guys,
evening.
and thank you so much. Thank you, Delaware.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Take care.
All right, well, that's a tough act to follow, and the person that gets to do it is our wonderful insurance commissioner, Trinidad Navarro. We talked a little bit earlier about Trini and the work he did. We talked about how he brought consumer costs down because he got rid of credit scoring and redlining. The other thing that he did, working with the General Assembly, Democrats in the General Assembly, is really work to codify protections for pre-existing conditions. Our General Assembly saw, and our insurance commissioner saw the writing on the wall around what was happening in Washington, and that things that were very central to our protection, our well-being, frankly, fundamental rights, were in the crosshairs. And so, before this latest effort by the Republicans to pack the courts, the General Assembly was thoughtful enough to say, you know what? We don't know what the fate of the Affordable Care Act is going to be, and we need to do our part to make sure that pre-existing conditions remain covered for Delawareans, that they're protected, and that insurance companies can't play around with this just because Republicans are playing politics with healthcare at the federal level. And so Trini was really on the front lines of making sure that piece of legislation got passed, and I think that's a really great place to introduce him. Insurance Commissioner Navarro, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we were just talking a little bit about some of the legislation that you were central to, and if you don't mind, just sort of talking about what your legislative priorities are going to be over the next 4 years to help insurance consumers here in the first state.
Well, I think you mentioned one of them with working with the General Assembly to pass the legislation to codify some of the protections of the ACA. We saw the possibility of this happening. We introduced a bill and worked well with our chairs in the House and Senate to get that bill done. So I'm really pleased with that. I will tell you that we passed about a dozen pro-consumer bills in 2018. I keep saying last year, but there really was no last year. But we got those done. We did cybersecurity. We did a pharmacy benefit manager bill. And a PBM bill really will help us address the PBMs that are the go-between between the manufacturers of the drug and the pharmacists. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's not regulated. So we're working with the General Assembly. We passed this bill that will force PBMs to register with our department. But that's the first step to, I think, will be licensure. And once we license them, we'll be able to do a market conduct exam. We'll be able to do financial exams and really look into where those kickbacks and clawbacks and rebates are going, and determine how we can lower premiums for Delawareans.
That's really fantastic, Trini. I did talk a little earlier about my own personal experiences. This is Cassandra Marshall, by the way. My own personal experience with the work that you've done in the General Assembly with real reductions in my Obamacare premiums, real reductions in my car insurance premiums, and that has just been. And I have neighbors who have similar stories, with getting real results from the work that you've done in terms of reductions in insurance costs. I've heard you talk a little bit here about some of the things that you were going to be working on over the next year or so. What are you going to try to what are you going to try to do after you get to the PBM legislation?
Well, with respect to that legislation, we really want to lower costs for all Delawareans. But one of our biggest accomplishments was House Bill 80, and House Bill 80 addressed discriminatory practices that insurance companies use to determine what your premiums will be. And I know that we had this conversation that you benefited because they can no longer use things like your zip code.
Right.
But it was called the credit score bill because that was the biggest challenge we had with the insurance industry, because they said that there was a correlation between credit score and claims history. And we asked to see that, and they couldn't provide a document. So we were able to prevent auto and homeowner insurers from using your credit score or the lack of credit, your
Right.
education, your employment, your zip code, your gender. I mean, all types of issues or things that they use to, which I thought were unfairly discriminatory. So we were able to get that done. I'm now looking at artificial intelligence and big data that insurance companies use, again, to determine your premiums. And they can tell by what you look, websites you look at. They can tell what magazines you prescribe to, and they can get a pretty good handle on that person. And what I mean by that is, People Magazine, for example, won't really give you a big tell. But if you prescribe to El Tiempo Hispano or Essence Magazine, they can determine whether your ethnicity, they can determine where you live, your race. This is a computer algorithm that does this. And as a regulator, I want to make sure that they can't use those algorithms to, whether it's intentional or not, but to discriminate against people based off of those factors we spoke about earlier.
Trinidad, congratulations, obviously. And switching a little bit to the election, you've obviously ran countywide. You now ran statewide. As you were out on the campaign trail today, what were you hearing from the voters that was top on their mind and most important for you to take care of?
Well, I'll tell you that people were worried, and they were really worried about the future of Delaware, but really the future of our country. And so it doesn't really matter what side of the aisle. I can tell you that people were really, really concerned about what's going to happen next, how we are viewed across the world, not just here in Delaware. We're on solid ground here in Delaware with our legislators. I'm very happy with the outcome of the elections this time. And, and we talked back 4 years ago. I remember standing on the stage during normal times with our governor, lieutenant governor, and our congresswoman. And we all have our arms raised and the balloons are dropping. And it was a great night until the results from the presidential election started to come in. Right. And it was obvious that they weren't looking very good. And as the night progressed, it looked like President Trump was going to win. And it really knocked the air out of the room when that happened, when we realized that was likely going to happen. And I know that Senator Coons mentioned this earlier, that this will take several days. I pray that people have come out and they're going to vote for our Vice President Joe Biden, because really what we're worried about is not just our standing in the nation, really, but across the world. And I believe that Joe is the person that can bring us back and bring us back better. So fingers crossed. And I know a lot of people here in Delaware are relieved, but we're all on edge now waiting to see what's happening in the national poll.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we know we've got election night down at the riverfront to get to. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us, and hope you get some time to celebrate with your family.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Really excited to bring in our next guest, who'll be joining us in a minute. He's not potentially a household name for some of you, but certainly for anyone who has ever stepped foot in the Democratic ecosystem, who's ever been a campaign staffer or volunteer. There are few people who have been more significant mentors than our next guest, Ed Friel. Ed has done an enormous amount of work at the University of Delaware on the public policy side. He has done a lot of work for Senator Carper, and most recently this cycle, and in past cycles, frankly, helped chair our coordinated campaign and steer us in the direction of the most robust voter contact effort that we've ever seen. So Ed, first and foremost, thank you for joining us, but also thank you just for your leadership of the party. It's really great to have you.
And Jesse, if I could just interrupt for a second and take personal privilege as chair. I know I'm breaking ranks, but as Jesse was saying, and as chair of the party, one of the first people I met when I moved to Delaware, and the irony was, I was having coffee with Ed Friel, but it was Ed Friel, his former Secretary of State, and I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer at the University of Delaware, and I was told to sit down with this Mr. Friel because he was going to start a university-wide service learning program. And as Jesse mentioned, whether it's students at the University of Delaware that are looking at public policy, whether it's students at the University of Delaware that are interested in running campaigns, or whether it's folks like myself, you look at Molly Jerusik, Erik, you look at Nicole Majeski, Saran Cade, all of us over the years, Saran, Jesse, Cassandra. Again, I'm taking that personal privilege for those of you who don't know Ed, just to explain the legend that he is within our party. And I did, I made the call and to beg Ed. I thought I was going to have to chair our coordinated campaign earlier this year. And we all often joke about the fact that, I started my pitch and 5 seconds in, Ed cut me off and said, Erik, I will chair the coordinated. And with that, Ed, I would like to introduce you and thank you for everything you do for the party.
Thank you very much. Ed, this is Cassandra. When I first became chair of the city of Wilmington, one of the first phone calls that I got was from you, which I really appreciated. And one of the first meetings that I took was with you up at the Hollywood Grill, of course. And, we had a long, great conversation about a number of different things, party related. And I just wanted to tell you personally how much I appreciated, that start. And appreciate all of the mentoring, that you have done and all of the lessons that you have taught me along the way here. This has been a hard job, and I really do appreciate everything that you have helped me to get to here. But I do have a question, and I do want to ask you. I mean, I know that you've had your ear to the ground, all evening, for a lot of these races. What's your top takeaway of what's going on out with voters and how they're responding to this election?
Well, first of all three of you, thank you for those comments. I hate to interrupt. But let me to your question, Cassandra. I think, as we've talked about earlier tonight, people are concerned about the COVID. They're concerned about justice. They're concerned about the economy and what lies ahead. And I think they understand that there's a lot of perhaps difficult times ahead of us. And I think, when you think about the coordinated campaign, I like to think of it from the perspective of, and you guys have referenced the coordinated campaign many times tonight. I'm not sure all of our listeners or our audience maybe knows exactly what the coordinated campaign is, but I like to have the notion that, when Democrats work together, we win. And when we win, I think Delaware wins. You've seen some of our elected officials tonight. And I just think, as a Democrat, I'm proud to be working with such an exceptional group. And I know later on you're going to have some of our legislative candidates on who ran today. And again, they were an exceptional group. So, but the coordinated campaign, if I could just maybe say a word or two about it. And first of all, I have a very, very able co-chair, Betsy Marin, who co-chaired the campaign with me. She's our national vice chairwoman. And the coordinated campaign really operates sort of as a subsidiary of the state party. And it's an umbrella effort to pull all the candidates and all the political groups together so that on election day today, we can have the most effective get out the vote program possible. We have a separate staff. And I'm just going to drop a couple names because I think they should be recognized somewhere in the show tonight, because they are really the ones who made this whole thing work. Our executive director was Christy Iannelli. Our deputy was Taylor Godwin. Sam Barry headed up our field effort, and Everett Anderson, our tech and digital director. And we actually had a total of about, today, 15 paid staff and hundreds of volunteers working to get out the vote for the party today. And from what I heard earlier, it sounds like we're setting records in terms of turnout, and that's certainly exciting. Although getting turnout when our Delawarean Joe Biden is at the top of the ticket, that makes life a lot easier. And but it was a tremendous team effort. And when I say Democrats work together, and you all three of you have been part of it. For the last X number of weeks, we've gathered every Thursday by Zoom and had representatives from all the statewides, the legislative caucuses, the political subdivisions, laying out our plans, laying out what issues we needed to focus on going forward so that we could have an effective effort today. And that's unusual to get that kind of buy-in and that kind of cooperation. Although I will tell you that Delaware was one of the first states who started the coordinated campaign back in the 80s, really. And so that's a little bit of a sense of what the coordinated campaign is about. It ends today, really. Our effort is to get the vote out. I think we had a very successful effort, and I'll stop there.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's very, very successful. I mean, you know, more than 500,000 people, and I'm not sure what the Democratic number is just yet, but you know, that's the best that I think that we've ever done. So it certainly has been a big success, and we had a lot of obstacles this year. So you know, this team, you know, really went above and beyond to make sure that that our voters got contacted.
Right. You're right. We did have some challenges, a lot of challenges. And I think when you go back and look at the numbers today, you're going to find that most of our Democratic candidates at the local level, because of our vigorous mail efforts, started out the day with a 2-to-1 margin.
Correct. Yep.
Almost across the board, it was at least a 2-to-1 margin.
Yeah.
And that's significant. And that wasn't an accident.
Right.
We worked very hard. Christy and her team put together a great plan. And I think when we get a chance to dig into the numbers, we're going to find out that it was very effective.
Absolutely.
100%. Well, Ed, thank you for all you've done to help us get out the vote. You know, your fingerprints and your team's fingerprints are really all over this. And for the viewers at home, if this sounded like a little bit of a love fest,
It was.
It was. It was.
And we don't apologize. We don't apologize for it.
And I'm proud of all of you guys too. You did a great job, and you give our party great leadership.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Ed. Speaking of
Yeah,
great
Jesse.
leaders, go ahead.
I just want to quick, unless I'm looking at this wrong, and I'm looking at the numbers here, it looks like every election district has been reported in State Senate District 7 in Spiros' race, and that he has won.
Yep, I've just gotten confirmation from that as well over text message. The outstanding polling place there was Baltz.
Right, and it just came in.
We went and Spiros went in with a 600 vote advantage there. I haven't pulled up the exact numbers, but he did not close that gap, and so you know, we can, I think, officially announce or unofficially announce,
correct, that
Spiros Mansavinos will be the next state senator from the 7th
congratulations,
district,
Spiros.
and that is really extraordinary.
That is extraordinary. And Spiros ran a great race there. I mean, a great race.
He really did, and I think, you know, when you commit yourself to this and pour everything into it. You know, sometimes you get the outcome that you deserve.
Right.
And I think this is one of those cases.
And let's not forget, during this cycle, not only did he get in early and start working, you know, but unfortunately, Spiros' father, you know, was diagnosed with COVID and passed away. Spiros dealt with COVID.
Yes.
You know, his mother's now living in his house, and he did not let anything stop him.
Right.
And we've talked, you know, so many, you know, over the years, you know, the shoe leather, and this, what we had to do this cycle was absolutely, you know, we had to switch. It was phone calls, and Spiros did all of it. So I cannot commend him enough. And you know, for those of you following who don't know, you know, this was one of our targeted races. You know, we not only had the coordinated, but we had a red to blue program. And you know, we knew if we had a phenomenal candidate that would work hard, do what they needed to do, that we could pull this off. And congratulations to Spiros.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think one of the architects here, you know, we talked about Ed being the architect of the coordinated campaign. I think one of the architects of this race specifically, but really a lot of our red to blue efforts, is joining us now. He is Cassandra's counterpart in Newcastle County, the chair of the Newcastle County Executive Committee, and someone from day one said, you know, yeah, we're a blue county, but we're about to get bluer, and we're going to put in the work, and we're going to find the right candidates, and we're going to invest the resources, and we're going to win in Senate District 7, and we're going to win in Senate District 5, and we're going to be competitive in some of these outstanding House districts, and that's exactly what's happened. So Dave, I guess congratulations first and foremost. You're not a candidate, but you know, you've got a couple W's here to celebrate.
Absolutely.
It's always good to have the W's to celebrate. As an Eagles fan, you know, it's very easy to sort of concentrate on the L's, but I'm embracing the W's for now. So,
absolutely, Dave. Just real quick, talk a little bit about the work you've done with your committee to really forge a path of, I think, you know, frankly, some sophistication in identifying targeted races, really doing deep dives into data, and figuring out, you know, where resources can best benefit our candidates.
Yeah, you know, basically right after Election Day in 2018, I started recruiting candidates for all the races that we needed to target this time. So, we had a few candidates that had run previously, and some of them came back and some of them didn't. I think we were definitely better for having people that had done this before. But we had a few spots that we didn't have anybody. And, Spiros is a great example of somebody who had never really thought about running for office. And, I met with him in December and we talked about it, and we found a way to get him to commit. Kyle, I think I interviewed or spoke to, I don't know, 5 or 6. You were in there with me several times, Jesse. People wanted that race. People were interested in getting in that race, and Kyle ended up being one of 3 eventually. And I think she did a phenomenal job of taking sort of the sprint from the primary and continuing on. And I think Spiros just had this long hill to get up, and he started working in January and never stopped. And like you pointed out, lots of setbacks, both health-wise for him and for his family. And I'm very impressed with both of their campaigns. And then on the other side of it, we had sort of Sheree Moore, who came, we had a retirement, and she jumped in a 3-way primary. She won the primary, and now she's going on, and she's going to be our next rep from the 8th RD. So it's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting, and you're, definitely to be congratulated along with your team, conceptualizing that and, getting that executed. One of the things that's been interesting to listen to tonight, we've listened to a number of our Democrats who have won their races, talk about what they've heard on particularly today as people were voting, and talk a little bit about their priorities. And, one of the most amazing things, from all of these Democrats is how they are laser focused on policies and laws that are going to help people. You didn't hear a thing about a tax cut. You didn't hear about anything about, helping corporations. You heard about helping people. And it seemed to me, just from sitting in Wilmington, that a lot of these campaigns were, just extended, that particular theme. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Most of these campaigns concentrated on things that voters care about, and that's the key to getting people to come out and vote for you. And we were able to sort of harness that and help hone those messages for them in some cases. And but these are people who genuinely care about voters. They care about their districts, and they care about the issues that affect the people that live there. And so I think that's one of the great strengths of these candidates, is that they really have a desire to make their districts better. I didn't talk about Sarah Mcbride, but it's the same thing. Sarah's also very passionate about her district and what life can be like in Wilmington and parts north. So, I've been very, lucky in having, a lot of candidates that are really interested in helping their constituents. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic job.
Dave, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us, and just thanks for everything you've given to the party. It's been just a real joy to work with everybody, but certainly with you over the last 3.5 years.
Absolutely.
We all make a good team, and I'm
we do.
proud to be part of it. And thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Dave.
We'll talk to you soon.
Enjoy.
We're going to pivot to Sarah Mcbride in just a second, but I do want to just analyze one thing that Dave said. He talked about Kyle emerging from a three-way primary and being victorious. We have the latest primary in the nation. That doesn't happen on accident. The party rallied around her, and the county party rallied around her, but so did her opponents. Both of her opponents endorsed her.
Right.
And supported her before the race. And in the case of Ray Moore, Ray also emerged from a crowded primary. I think as best we could, we tried to rally the troops around her. And she certainly deserves all the credit for what happened down there.
Absolutely.
But was happy to play a supporting role in some of those efforts. Someone that did that actually supported our efforts and was an incredible friend to the party, very generous in supporting our voter contact efforts, while she was running her own extraordinary and historic campaign, is one of my really good friends, and I've been waiting for this moment the whole show. My state senator, Sarah Mcbride. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me and for all of your incredible work. I'm so excited to be celebrating with you all.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Sarah. I know that probably more than a year or so ago when we first met and we talked about your thoughts about running for state senator. One of the things that I've done almost every single time that I have seen you since has been to ask you if you have won yet. And so today I get to ask you if you have won yet, and you get to say yes. So I'm really glad about that, and congratulations to you. It's been a real pleasure to watch your campaign, focused in on a district that is really very diverse. You had to pull together a pretty broad coalition of folks to pull you over the line here today, and I am interested in hearing you talk a little bit about the effort of pulling together all of those folks in Senate District 1 to come out to vote for you today.
Well, it's a fantastic question, and I love this district. It's a district that in many ways looks like Delaware. It's got incredible diversity across our communities. It includes parts of Wilmington up through Edmore and Bellefonte and Claymont to the Pennsylvania line. And so it's got a lot of different communities, a lot of wonderful diversity, a lot of vibrant communities here. And from the start of this campaign, what I have always wanted to do, and what I know the team that's helped run this campaign has always wanted to do, is to make sure that this campaign is about listening to voters, talking with voters. Those conversations have fueled this campaign. And I think what's so important and what we need more of in our political leadership, particularly obviously nationally, is leaders who are willing to go into communities and listen. Go in with a big heart and see people's experiences, their pains, their hopes, their dreams, and to have those conversations. And for me, I think that the conversations that I have had with voters across this district in every single part of this district have reinforced just how much we have in common. And that our diversity is our strength, but in each of us, in each of those communities, we share common hopes for this state. And I think tonight's results help to reinforce what I've known throughout my life growing up in this district, which is that voters here are fair-minded people who are looking at candidates' ideas, their experiences, and not their identity.
Right.
And I think the results tonight demonstrate that. And I just am so proud to not just call this district home, but to now be able to represent this district down in Dover and to fight for it with the same zeal and energy as our retiring state senator Harris McDowell. And I'd be remiss if I didn't just take a moment to say how grateful I was to be able to spend tonight with him to celebrate his ongoing legacy to this state. He leaves big shoes to fill, and I'm going to work every single day to make sure I try to fill them.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Sarah, if you could talk a little bit, as Jesse mentioned in the beginning of this when we started interviewing you, not only were you running your race, you had a primary, but you were very helpful to candidates up and down the ballot. You were very helpful to Senate candidates, and you were very helpful to us in terms of our Red to Blue program, targeting red districts that were currently represented by red folks, I should say Republicans, and switch. How did you go about doing that? And I think it's a model to me. As chair, I want to thank you for that investment you made in the party, because we often have the coordinator that works, in getting the vote out for the entire ticket, but then we always see strategically how we can just push slightly over the fence a couple of these races. What was part of that strategy, or what made you want to do that?
Well, I think for me, one of the things that was so important from the start of this campaign was to make sure that the support that I was able to receive for this campaign helped to lift up other candidates, because it's not just enough for us to for us just to win this race. We've got to make sure that we're sending more proud Delaware Democrats to Dover to deliver meaningful results for Delawareans. And so for me, from the start of this campaign, it's been important that we're investing and supporting other candidates. And candidly, that investment's been easy for us in terms of giving to the party, because you all have done such incredible work. We wanted to invest in the work you all are doing, because you've created such an incredible operation. You've been so strategic. You've been so thoughtful. You've recruited an unbelievably talented and diverse set of candidates. I'm so excited to hear that it's looking like we're going to have both Kyle and Spiros down in the Senate, that they'll be joining and Marie as new freshmen in the state Senate. And so it's really an exciting evening, and I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to serve with them. And this is exactly the reason why I wanted to make sure I supported the party, because the work you are doing is what helped get these candidates over the finish line.
Well, we can't thank you enough for that, Sarah. Absolutely.
Thank you, and congratulations
Sarah,
again.
enjoy the rest of your night, and who knows what might happen until after 11 o'clock. Maybe we'll see you later.
I'll see y'all later.
Have a great evening.
See you, Sarah.
Take care.
Up next, we are going to transition back to the one statewide candidate that we've yet to have, and it's really someone who has been, I think, the conscience of our state through what has been a challenging period, the coronavirus crisis. This has been difficult for people. People have lost lives, they've lost livelihoods. It's laid bare a lot of challenges within our state and within our country. And we've been very fortunate to have a steady leader at the helm of our state, and Governor Carney, who has been steady, who has been post-partisan, who has been someone who believed and followed the science, delivered strong, consistent messaging, and I think made people feel as comfortable as they could given the challenges that we were all facing. Running a re-election campaign during a public health pandemic is not easy, and it's particularly not easy when you're the governor who is trying to get people to adhere to all of these public health standards. But Governor Carney did that with aplomb, and I think the results speak for themselves. So, Governor, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. I wish I could see you in person so I know who I'm talking to.
Well, you've seen at least me before. It's not
really
that
beautiful, great day to be a Democrat here in Delaware. Great day to have an election. Just spectacular weather from start to finish.
Well, congratulations, Governor. This is Cassandra Marshall speaking. It's been, I've seen you, or at least seen you on Zoom recently, where, I've remarked to you that you've done a really remarkable job, managing this state through this pandemic. And I certainly feel, very safe here. And I wanted, and my question to you is, I know that you have been under a tremendous amount of pressure, throughout the year in particular, to make a lot of different choices that probably wouldn't have been, quite so safe for us. And, wanted to talk to you a little bit about, have you been hearing from people, particularly today, that they're supportive of your decision making?
So one of the things that I particularly like about Election Day is that it really gives those of us who have the privilege of serving as elected official, those of us who put our name out there running for office, to get a real feel at a gut level, I think, about how the people in our state are responding to your candidacy, to your leadership, to the things that you're doing. I did really got a really strong, warm feeling from Cape Henlopen High School, where I started the day, through Kent County and Cheswold Fire Department, Middletown High School, Thurgood Marshall School. The lines were incredible. And what I did is I worked the line from start to finish, just really thanking people for getting out there. Folks would stop me and thank me for what we've been doing over the last 8 months. And I got to say, our victory today, I think, was an affirmation for our approach to COVID-19. It's an affirmation for me, sure, as governor, but mostly for our team, the Division of Public Health, the Secretary, Dr. Walker, who has took us through several of the months now, Molly McGarrick, Dr. Carol Rattay, and their teams in public health. We just decided to follow the science, do the right thing, and kind of let the political chips fall where they may. As it turns out, people believed in that approach, and they showed it today, I think, in their support. I frankly have not had the time that I normally would to invest in a campaign in politics, and you just didn't have time to do that, and so we had to allow our work to speak for us in this campaign. I just so excited about the whole ticket from top to bottom. Obviously, it's great to be running as a Democrat with Joe Biden running as president. That certainly helps a lot.
Erik? Governor, just a quick question for you. Obviously you've been involved in politics for a long time. You've been on the ground. What looks different for you this year in terms of, the 2020 election cycle? We just talked about COVID and your amazing response, but what are you seeing differently in terms of, how the party changed, what you're hearing from voters, et cetera?
Yeah, so a couple things. One is our state's very different than it was when I first volunteered for Joe Biden back in 1984. We have a significant registration advantage, we Democrats, over Republicans, which gives all of our candidates an advantage. The party, Erik, your work, your team's work, the technology that you used, the energy that was put into really remote virtual campaigning with the volunteers was impressive. So incredibly different than it was, back in 1984. I commented on that, Cassandra, at the lit drop the other day, where we gathered there to get people ready to just drop literature at doors. Back when Joe was first running, Joe Biden was first running, we would lit drop the whole state and expect to get the whole state done over a weekend. And it was as much about mobilizing volunteers and getting people energized and excited to support a candidate, support Senator Biden at the time. So a lot has changed. I think it does raise the bar for all of us as Democrats to govern in a way that's thoughtful, that addresses the needs of our constituents. It's incredibly more diverse. I think that would be the last thing I would mention, both in the candidates that run as Democrats. The state itself is much more diverse than it was 30 years ago. And we are, as a party, I think, a big tent party, are responding accordingly with all the young people that are running. You just were interviewing Sarah, and we've had others that ran this time. Just incredible youth and energy that now we have to pull together and govern. And that's certainly more difficult than campaigning.
Well, Governor,
If I may, I try to do this at every chance I can, is to thank you and salute you. This is kind of your, one of your first times around on the leadership side as the head of the Wilmington Democratic Party. And those of us who know the history of the party over the last 30, 40 years know that how difficult it is to keep people moving in the same direction, to keep everybody on the same page. And I just think you've done an outstanding job of that, including folks, when when you don't have when you have a dominant party and you don't have folks on the other side of the aisle to fight with, you tend to fight among each other.
Right.
And they've done a really fabulous job in trying to work through that, be inclusive, allow for those kinds of battles, if you will, or competition that can strengthen us, but do it in a way that does strengthen us and not hurt us as a party, as a community.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I always appreciate all of your support.
You've got it.
And congratulations again.
Thank you very much, Erik, to you and your team. Thanks very much for what you did this election season. It was a very challenging time to do it. I don't know how you all did it, but you did a great job.
Right back at you, Governor. Thanks a lot, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, Governor. We know we're upon the 11 o'clock hour, but tonight was a big night, and we've got a few more candidates that we want to be sure that we talk to, including the next one up, a new state representative, Medina from the 26th RD, Medina Wilson Anton. Medina was a legislative fellow in the Senate for a while. She was a legislative aide in the House, and she has seen that building from a unique perspective. And for her to step up as a new candidate, become the first Muslim American woman to represent Delaware in the General Assembly, it's an extraordinary feat, and we couldn't be happier to have Medina with us tonight. Hi, Medina.
Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Hey,
Medina.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, we're so glad that you're here, and it's so impressive to watch your run for this seat through the primary and also through this general. You have really been you've been at the tip of the spear of some of the generational change that looks like it's happening in our legislature. I know that you've been out and about, talking to a number of voters today, as well as all the voters that you've spoken to over the past year or so. What are you hearing from folks in your district as their top priorities of things that they would like for you to work on over the next year or so?
Sure. So there's a lot that's going on right now. A lot of us are glued to the television or to our screens to watch the results. That's really what's been front of mind for most people that I'm talking to, is that it's time to dump Trump. And I hope that's what happens tonight. As far as like local issues, education reform is a really big issue for our community, racial equity, and of course, dealing with COVID in a way that is conscientious, and where we're not leaving people out of the progress that others are making.
Absolutely.
Those are some of the issues that we're hearing.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You obviously, as Jesse did the introduction, you had an inside view of Legislative Hall, right, as a legislative aide on the Senate side and the House side. As you get ready to go to Dover in January, what are some of the focuses that you have on your plate and that you really want to see done?
There's so many things. And if folks that are logged on want to learn more of the details, so you can go to my website, which is medinafordelaware.com. Environmental justice, racial justice, through economic justice. All of the justices are important. Education reform, which is really part of racial justice. Right. All of those issues are important. But I'll say that the main thing that I'm going and focused on is making sure that if we have a budget shortfall, that we're not cutting programs that are most important for the most vulnerable communities in our state. A lot of times when money's tight, those programs go first. Right. And so I'm really excited that there's quite a few progressives who are going in with our communities on our minds and not the bottom line. So it might be that we need to raise taxes. People don't like to do that, but I'm not worried about it. If that's what we have to do to make ends meet and not to cut people that really need these programs, that's what we're going to do. So that's what I'm really focused on. And hopefully we don't have a budget shortfall, but it's looking pretty bad. So that's something that I have, on my mind right now.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Medina. We really appreciate you joining us. I think one of the things that people, we often get into the tax conversation around elections, and one of the things people don't realize is just how low Delaware's taxes are. You know, most places rank us as having, you know, one of the best deals in the country for taxpayers. That's not to say that we, you know, take that for granted. We don't take that seriously. We want to provide value. But I think our government has done an extraordinary job at fiscal responsibility over the years, and has put us in a position to really take this pandemic head on. Yes. But that can't last forever. So your points are well taken. Medina,
right. And it's not to say that we should be taxing people that aren't doing well. Delaware has very low taxes where if you make $60,000, that's as rich as it gets. So maybe we need to add some income brackets that are higher up, and things like that. And really moving towards progressive taxation and not regressive taxation, which is what a lot of the country has. I just want to make that clarification there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the nice thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a really robust conversation about all these issues in the General Assembly in just a few months. So we turn the page on the election, and before you know it, you know, January is here, and we're in session and having all these conversations. And Medina, you're going to be a part of those. And so congratulations again for a wonderful victory.
Congratulations.
And we're so proud to have you as part of our party.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a great night, everybody.
Have a great night.
Take care.
Take care.
You know, election night isn't only about welcoming some of our newcomers, although that's a really exciting part of election night. It's about protecting some of our best people. And we certainly were excited to reelect all of our statewide elected officials, but we were also really excited to reelect Krista Griffith in the 12th Representative District. For those that don't know, the 12th Representative District, which is in sort of the western Wilmington, Greenville, Brandon 100 area, was represented by a Republican for more than 2 decades. It was once thought of as a completely unwinnable seat for Democrats. And we chipped away and we chipped away and we chipped away until we found just one of the best candidates we could possibly find in Krista Griffith, who did the hard work 2 years ago to flip that seat. And then doubled down this year in 2020 and held that seat. Folks sort of outside of the political sphere may not realize this, but it's conventional wisdom to think that the first reelect is always the hardest election. You're not the apple of everyone's eye necessarily, in the same way you were when you were a challenger, and that can be tough. And you have a target on your back. But Krista was just an extraordinary candidate. And ran an extraordinary race, and I know had an extraordinary team behind her, and so that's really exciting that she was able to be victorious tonight. I'm glad we get to talk about some of these down ballot races that maybe weren't the marquee races, but really deserve some attention.
Yeah, and I think that you know, one of the things to note about, you know, Krista's race is that, you know, Krista had a track record. Krista had a track record of being a really good Democrat, and delivering on, you know, solid Democratic policies in this place that used to be represented by Republicans. And, you know, she's been returned with, you know, a pretty decisive margin, you know, noting that, you know, when you are focused in on the people, as Nancy Pelosi likes to say, you know, people respond to that, and they will return you back to government. So, you know, Krista has been doing a bang-up job for her district, and she's been doing it as a proud Democrat, which is, you know, really the most important thing at this stage.
And it sounds like Krista is celebrating with her team and potentially having some technical difficulties in joining us. So we apologize for that. We're still hoping to get her on before we close out the program. But it sounds like we're going to pivot to one of the 2 Senate candidates who scored huge wins tonight, Spiros Manzavinos in Senate District 7, which is in the Pike Creek, Ellesmere area. Spiros ran just an extraordinary campaign. He was up against a very popular, very frankly talented campaigner in Anthony Del Colo, and he beat him. And he beat him because he left the pizzazz on the sideline and talked about the kitchen table issues that matter to working families and middle-class families in that district. I cannot be more excited to introduce Spiros. It was a really joy to work with him over the last year. And Spiros, I hope you've got a glass of brown liquor in your hand. And I can't see you, but I'm going to make assumptions.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Spiros.
Thank you so much. There's so many people to thank
who've been with me on this journey that started what seems like a decade ago, but it was only 9 months ago, to get us all here. I mean, tonight's victory is not just mine, but a whole lot of other people who've put in a lot of work and put a lot of sweat and put a lot of time, and for that I'm just incredibly grateful. But yeah, I mean, I do have I've had a few yeah. There's some liquid waiting for me after this.
That's awesome. Well, it's well deserved.
Well deserved, absolutely.
You had, and congratulations, absolutely, Spiros. I know that you and I met early on, which I definitely appreciated, and it was, really exciting to listen to, your vision of your campaign and your vision of, what you could bring to that Senate district. You've been talking to a number of people today out at polls. What is it that that you have heard from them that they've responded to about your campaign, and that they are looking forward for you to being able to do?
Look, I think it's a return to democratic values. I mean, my campaign about, again, having a state senator, with democratic values. That's making sure, access to affordable health care, primarily. I mean, we need to get through this pandemic. There's so many people who, every issue that we're dealing with right now is an outcome of the pandemic, whether it is, someone who has lost their job or has furloughed, or, making sure that their kids, are back in school. I mean, or that their parent or grandparent is being cared for safely. I mean, this is really the issue of our day, and we need to get through that. And then, I think it's once we get back to a sense where, we have public health, we will get back to being able to have economic health. And it's about making sure we have jobs, that, are good jobs for people of the 7th district, but also throughout the state, that with wages that will rise over time. So, that really has been the focus in the last, last several months of this campaign, as we've talked to voters, throughout the 7th district. And it's just getting back to, some of those core values that we need to make sure we're focusing on here at the state level.
Spiros, if you look back over the last year of your campaign, the exploratory period when you started, what would you say is like one of the most important decisions you made? Kind of now looking back at the whole process to run a winning campaign.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's having good people. I mean, when I was looking at, this race, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been, I've had the opportunity to work with, on legislative races, for decades. So I knew exactly what needed to happen going into this. And to have a winning campaign, you have to have a strong candidate, and you have to have a great campaign team. And that's what, once I made the decision to run, went about doing. And I can't, again, I can't say enough about the support I've received from the party, from other candidates, from incumbents, from our statewide elected officials to committee people, all of those folks coming together to work with me and get us across the finish line. But it really does, like I said, having a good, strong group of folks who know what they're doing and how to run campaigns, because this was a tough campaign. I think, we were able to finish strong.
Well, Spiros, we're going to let you get to whatever's in that glass waiting for you. For all of us, please give regards to Megan and to the family and to everyone that's gathered with you. We wish we could be there to celebrate with you, and we hope to see you soon.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we're quickly going to pivot to our last guest of the evening, I believe, and one of Spiros's new colleagues in the Senate, where for the first time in my memory, if my math is right, we'll have a supermajority of 14-7 advantage. And that would not have happened without the campaign that we're about to highlight, Kyle Evans-Gay, who Dave Woodside alluded to this earlier, but who came into headquarters and met with us 2 years ago at this point, and looked us in the eye and said that she could win, that she could beat an incumbent that has never been touched, that has never been in a competitive race, that is extraordinarily popular. but frankly hasn't delivered for the voters of the 5th District. And Kyle prosecuted that case, I think, incredibly well. She did it with dignity. She stuck to the truth. And she also talked about what she would bring in terms of a new generation of leadership, in terms of being a working mom, in terms of being someone who chose Brandy 100 as a place to live and to raise her family. You know, we've worked with a lot of extraordinary candidates over the years and a lot of extraordinary campaigns. This is one of the most impressive operations that I've seen. And Kyle, I know this isn't just about you, but congratulations, and congratulations to your team. How did you do it?
Oh, I'm live now? Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Kyle.
Thank you so much. How did I do it? We did it. This community did it. I mean, we don't. Each vote is part of what we were able to accomplish tonight. So, I mean, we did it by talking to folks for almost 15 months about what really matters and about what we can accomplish in Dover if we actually work together as a community and come together around our shared values. So, I mean, every single person that stood in line today for over an hour did it. But thank you for asking. I'm incredibly excited and really excited to be here with you tonight.
Well, we're very excited to be able to talk to you as the new senator from your district. What is it that you heard from your voters that they would like for you to work on first, you know, once you actually take up your office in Dover?
Absolutely. This district is made of families and small businesses. And so COVID has hit us hard. And I have from folks time and again that we need to get back to what we were able to do before COVID, but safely. And that means they need an advocate in Dover who's going to work for funding to get our kids back to school safely, and someone who's able to get our workers and our small business owners back on their feet, but in a way that protects our community and reduces the spread of this virus. So, you know, we're going to need to tackle COVID-19 as soon as we get down there. But importantly, what I heard is that voters in this district are not wanting to let COVID stop us from working on the issues that they've been asking for years. Issues like gun control, issues like funding for education, issues like healthcare for those who need it, when they need it. And so what we are going to do is we're going to be action oriented, and we are going to go down there with an energy of the, 30,000 some folks in this district who want to see things get done.
That's great.
Last question for you. What do you think will be your biggest memory, your takeaway, what you'll always remember from this election cycle?
I can't even answer that question. There's been so much in the past 24 hours that inspired me.
Sorry for the trick question.
Yeah, no, it is a trick question. But I have to say that today we saw lines of people waiting to vote. And that means that whatever result happened in this election, it's because so many of us came out and we were able to have our voices heard. Right. And so I will always remember walking those lines time and again and thanking people for being here and thanking them for staying in line and thanking them for voting. We have come out and we have said this is the type of Delaware we want to see moving forward. Now it's up to us to deliver, and we are ready to do that. Great.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations, Kyle.
Congratulations, Kyle. Go enjoy the rest of the night with your team, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, bye.
Thanks. Well, we're going to call that a wrap on our guests tonight, and I think on our program. Want to thank Short Order for hosting us at their studio tonight and working overtime to have us. We had an extraordinary night here in Delaware. There's a lot left, a lot of ballots left to count across the country. I think we're all going to be doing some nail biting. But I think we're optimistic about what we're seeing right now. I just want to say a quick word about the folks that we didn't have on tonight. We had a lot of great candidates that we weren't able to feature, and frankly, we had a lot of great candidates that came up short. We often celebrate the winners on election night, but there are people who weren't successful that worked just as hard and were just as worthy, and just didn't have the same outcome. And so to those candidates, thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts for the work you poured into this, for making a meaningful difference in people's lives, for giving voters a choice. And the best thing you can do now is to stay involved, not just in the party, but in your communities. And the voters will be richer for that contribution. I want to give my fellow panelists a chance to say the last word. I'm grateful to have spent the night with them. Cassandra, why don't you give some parting words, and then we'll close it out with our party chair.
Oh, I'm definitely grateful to have spent this evening with, with you and with Erik, talking to all of our wonderful candidates. And I also want to reiterate the message that, for all of our candidates, successful or unsuccessful, to please stay involved in your communities and stay involved with the party. Our communities need us, and they need us more than ever right now. And great leadership is great leadership. That can happen pretty much anywhere it needs to be applied. It has been really wonderful to listen to all of these Democrats talking about, their people-focused campaigns. It has been wonderful listening to people who are very focused in on making sure that all of our communities get uplifted and that they get served by the government that they, that they spent a lot of time trying to vote for today. So I'm really excited about the future. We've got a lot of generational change that's happening, but we've also got a lot of great experienced folks. And I think that this next legislative session should be really exciting and should be, good for all of us here in Delaware. So thanks to both of you.
And I'd just like to, first and foremost, obviously, power flows from the bottom up. It takes a team. Folks here at the kitchen, my subdivision chairs, the committee chairs, the ward chairs, RD chairs, rank and file committee people, and then Jesse and Travis, our executive director and deputy executive director. They're the staff, the only two staffers that were, in the office, for the first 2.5 years of this campaign cycle, and want to thank them. And my final parting words that we started off with tonight is just please keep Elaine and Wayne's family, Manliv's family, in our thoughts and prayers as we go through this evening. And we know that Elaine is looking down as we hopefully cheer Vice President on to victory in the White House. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Good night, Democrats. Take care.
Thank you, Democrats.